In this tutorial, we will cover how to create an analytical app that runs multiple workflows and uses the stage type run. This is a powerful tool to let other users run multiple workflows and letting us ensure they run the right workflows and in the correct order. In a previous video, we covered how to use the parameter stage type and some other basics. Be sure to watch that video first if you have not seen it yet. To begin with, we have an empty analytical app. The only things we have done is name the app, select the execution type, project, and the workflow. Since we'll be running multiple workflows, selecting the workflow here is less important than usual. Now we can add our stages. As mentioned before, we will be utilizing the stage type run. And now we just need to name our stage. Now we can edit our first stage. For this stage, we will first use the layout panel. This will allow us to add multiple elements and additionally some information to help guide the user. It is important to remember that the user does not have access to all the information that we do, so it is important to add information wherever necessary. Next, we'll use the columns within the panel to add two buttons. The first will be our Run button. We also need to make this an action event. This will allow us to actually execute the selected workflow. Next, we also need to add a Next button. This is important for the UI so that the user knows that they can move between stages. It is also important because by default, an analytical app does not have any buttons or any navigation built in. This means that there is no way for the user to move to the next stage without us adding a button. Now we can hit save and done and add our next stage. This will also be of stage type run. Now we can edit this stage. We will begin the same as the last one by adding a panel and adding some information. Now we will also do the same second step by adding columns to our panel. In this case, our buttons will be a little bit different. The left button will be to go back. This is important because once again, the user can only access the buttons that you give them access to. So if they want to navigate back to see either the information from the last stage or to rerun the last stage, you need to give them a button to be able to do so. Again, all of these buttons need to be of event type if we want them to execute a workflow or to be able to navigate between stages. Now we can hit save and done. Next, we move on to possibly the most crucial step. We need to change the workflow or notebook for each of these stages. We do that using the black page symbol on the left side of each of the buttons for each stage. And here we can select the workflow that will be assigned to each stage. If no stage is selected, if no workflow is selected for each stage, it will use the main workflow that was selected when we set up the app. Now we can save this app and run it for testing. Here we can see we have the run button that we created earlier that will now submit the workflow to the Databricks cluster or the cluster that we have selected. And we have the next button that will allow us to move between stages. It may be important to add additional information within each stage if you want the user to behave in a particular way. For example, it may be important for a workflow to fully execute before they move on to the next stage. for the other stages to work properly. Additionally, we can add other options to each stage using our panels to determine which next stages will be shown. Now that our workflow is run, we can see that crucially, it has saved our file to our DBFS. This will be used in the next stage. This is again one of the common uses for why it is important to ensure that other users run your workflows in the correct order. Now we will run our second workflow. We also have the back button here that is very important for navigation through our analytical app. Again, we can see that our workflow has been submitted to the Databricks cluster after we hit the run button. Now we just need to wait for it to execute. As you can see, now it has executed a completely different workflow that also makes use of our input path from our previous workflow. This is how you build an analytical app that runs multiple workflows and ensures that they are run in the correct order. Thank you for listening.